President Trump and Mexico's President Lopez Obrador signing the new U.S.-Mexico-Canada trade agreement late Wednesday at the White House.
We reflect on all that our two people have accomplished together over the span of many generations, and we embrace the incredible opportunities that lay ahead.
The deal replaces the North American Free Trade Agreement signed more than 20 years ago, which President Trump had called one of the worst trade deals the U.S. ever signed. A group of labor unions threatening a symbolic walkout later this month.
The workers' demands, according to the Associated Press, include a mandate that corporations and government agencies declare Black Lives Matter. And elected officials, they say, must pass laws that guarantee people of all races thrive. The president of the Service Employees International Union said economic justice cannot happen without racial justice. So they want employers and companies to give them higher wages and allow all workers to unionize to negotiate better health care, sick leave, and child care support. July 20th, union workers and their supporters say they will be walking off the job for more than 8 minutes in honor of the amount of time a Minneapolis police officer kept his knee on George Floyd's neck, killing him. Jessica Rosenthal, Fox News.
Defense Secretary Mark Esper and General Mark Milley, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, will testify to congressional committees on Wednesday. They're likely to be asked about reported Russian bounties on U.S. service persons in Afghanistan and the possible use of the military to quell domestic violence. One person is dead. Several homes have been destroyed in the western Minnesota town of Ashby. The National Weather Service posting extreme heat warnings for parts of 14 states for Wednesday. Temperatures close to 100 degrees expected in several areas. The National Park Service says boat tours to the USS Arizona Memorial in Hawaii's Pearl Harbor will resume on Friday after a 3-month closure over the coronavirus. I'm Jack Callahan. This is Fox News.
Half a day. This is Michelle from APL Guam. Here at APL, our expertise and extensive network can help you grow your business and reach out to more markets. As a responsible carrier, APL is also committed to a sustainable future, whether it's protecting the environment or investing our efforts in giving back to the community. Our dedicated teams in Guam and on the U.S. mainland are here to support you. Call 588-4651 or visit apl.com.
You've got a job to do. Having the right equipment for the job is critical, and East West Rental has the exact tools you need. Get it done faster with the right stuff, whether it's landscaping tools, concrete tools, lifts, trucks, lights, generators, trench boxes, welders, tents, tables, and chairs. They're here to help you tackle any project you're working on, big or small. Open Monday to Saturday, 7 to 5, closed Sundays. Find what you're looking for at East West Rental Center in Upper Tumont or call 646-1463.
Everyone has a busy schedule these days, and sometimes we forget to schedule our routine dental checkup and cleaning. Don't neglect your dental health. Schedule one today with Dr. Robert Yang and his Smile team, conveniently located at the East West Business Center on Marine Drive, Upper Tumont. Call us today at 647-8702 or 3. Again, that's 647-8702 or 647-8703. We make smiles happen.
Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Bank Pacific, banking on the Pacific for 66 years.
Welcome to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, the only show on talk radio where common sense is a lot more common. Phone lines are now open at 888-TALK. That's 888-8255. And now, The Point proudly brings you Tall Tales with Senator Bob Klitzkie.
A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Welcome to Tall Tales. The real Joe Cruz and I will be talking about the Second Amendment, the Bill of Rights, the United States Constitution, the Organic Act of Guam, all of the interesting aspects of politics here on the island, comments on various social realities here on the island and in the mainland. So you're tuned into the top-rated afternoon FM talk show in the Western Pacific. There's a commercial that runs on this station from time to time where you'll hear my voice say, as Ray says, set your dial to 93.3 and leave it there. You needn't touch it again. Right, Real Joe Cruz?
So help me God.
So help me God, yeah. I saw something here on Facebook about your birthday, Real Joe Cruz.
Oh, sir, it's my birthday every day.
If you get to be the producer of Tall Tales, it may as well be, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. No need to saying happy birthday to the Real Joe Cruz. He's the producer of Tall Tales. Couldn't be any happier than that, right, Real Joe Cruz?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay, so we've dispensed with the Second Amendment. I shouldn't say dispensed. That's a little irreverent. We've paid homage to the Second Amendment, as is the usual custom here in Tall Tales. It is now time to go to Zemi i Klitzkie. And as usual, the Daily News is running some boilerplate that they pick up from USA Today, the USA Today, excuse me, talk much, USA Today editorial board, and it's titled Rename Bases Honoring Confederates. So we have 10 United States Army bases which were named after generals in the Army of the Confederate States of America during what Southerners refer to as the War of Northern Aggression. As an example, Fort Hood in Killeen, Texas. Fort Hood. General Hood was a Civil War general. I did a little research on that because I go to Killeen, Texas, Coppers Cove, Texas a lot. And I'm a curious sort, so I just wondered who this guy Hood was. And I found out he was a Civil War general. And I also found out that at the beginning of the Second World War, the United States was taking huge chunks of land through the process of eminent domain. Places like Fort Hood is an example. When Fort Hood was made into a military base through the process of eminent domain, 6 small towns were just wiped off from the face of the map, turned into a military base. So a lot of people really happy about the condemnations because it did bring a lot of commerce to town. But of course, a lot of people weren't too happy because they lost their land, they lost their homes, etc. So the thinking at that time in Washington was, in order to make this sit a little bit better with Southerners, which is where most of the military bases turned out to be located, little milder weather down there, in order to assuage Southern feelings, the idea was we'll name these 10 new Army bases after Southern generals. This will be a little less onerous for the folks down there in Dixie to put up with. So it was kind of an early version of political correctness. Just goes to show you that even political things that are done in the name of political correctness can lose their political correctness sheen as time goes on. So this article talks about renaming those bases. My own attitude is, if it makes you feel better, okay, fine, let's do it. I don't think that, given everything that's going on, it's something that I want to spend a whole lot of time on Tall Tales with. However, the Daily News also ran another column, not the editorial, but a op-ed piece, once again special to USA Today, by Heather McDonald. Titungunay zangin samoru si McDonald nay. Lo McDonald an McDonald tomorrow na klase, right? Rujo Cruz, magahit.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Magahit.
Yeah, tenency. Yeah, so see Heather McDonald, senior night cousin, the mayor of Agana Heights, Lo Tetungu. Anyhow, this is what she said. The video of George Flores's tragic death under the knee of a Minneapolis police officer has led many to ask whether it represents the tip of an iceberg of police brutality. For centuries, United States law enforcement was interwoven with slavery and segregation, and that memory cannot be easily erased. And I got to say, yeah, segregation and police in the South, in the solid Democrat South. Who could ever forget Bull Connor and the Selma March, right? The solid Democrat South. And Jim Crow, Senator Jim Crow from the South. For centuries, the United States law enforcement was interwoven with slavery and segregation, and that memory cannot be easily erased. But the evidence does not support the charge that biased police are, and then they use the word, are systematically killing black Americans in fatal shootings. I think Heather means systemically, not systematically.
I think you're right, sir.
Yeah, and there is a difference.
There is, sir.
Right? Yeah. My office at home is systematically organized. I have, computers and staplers and this and that. It's not systemically organized. Yeah. So you're not going to get a blue star today. You got a check mark on your paper there, Heather. Much of modern policing is driven by crime data and community demands for help. The African American community tends to be policed more heavily because that's where people are disproportionately hurt by violent street crime. In New York City in 2018, 73% of shooting victims were black, though black residents comprise only 24% of the city's population. Nationally, African Americans between the ages of 10 and 34 die from homicide at 13 times the rate of white Americans, according to researchers from the Centers for Disease Control and the Justice Department. Community requests also determine police deployment, and the most urgent requests often come from law-abiding residents of high-crime neighborhoods. An elderly resident in the Mount Hope neighborhood of the Bronx once described to me her fear of entering her building lobby, since it was so often occupied by trespassing youth hanging out and selling drugs. The only time she felt safe was when law enforcement was around. As long as she saw the police, she told me, everything is okay. You can come down and get your mail and talk to decent people. This sentiment is echoed in dozens of police community meetings I've attended. I stop here for a second. You remember these meetings that we had, the mayors held in the various villages after what we're going to call the Judy Gutherts incident? All of those people in those meetings with the mayors all said the same thing: abolish the police. Right? Isn't that what they said?
Was it sounding so?
Abolish the police. Police brutality.
Maybe?
No. Not even close. We need more cops. We need more cops, and the cops got to be on the job, and the cops got to go out there and arrest these bad people. If I had gone to Heather's cousin, Mayor Paul McDonald, up in Agana Heights when he had his meeting, and if I had been up there and stood up and said, we got to abolish the police, they'd have probably thrown me out on my ear. And as you were, this sentiment is echoed in dozens of police community meetings I've attended, Heather said. They also want improved quality of policing. The percentage of black respondents in a 2015 Gallup poll who wanted more police in their community was more than twice as high as the percentage of white respondents who said the same. Activists who seek to disband police departments will have to explain to these law-abiding residents that they will, in essence, just have to fend for themselves. Such self-defense may be understandable if the police were engaging in an epidemic of shooting armed black men and women, as we now hear daily, but there is no epidemic. For the last 5 years, the police have fatally shot about 1,000 civilians annually, the vast majority of whom were armed or otherwise dangerous. Black people account for about 23% of those shot and killed by police. They are about 13% of the U.S. population. As of June 22 update, the Washington Post database of fatal police shootings showed 14 unarmed black victims and 25 unarmed white victims in 2019. So I guess the police departments, probably got to work on their statistics a little bit more, right, in order to fit the narrative. There are about 7,300 black homicide victims a year. The 14 unarmed victims in fatal police shootings would comprise only 0.2% of that total. Ideally, officers would never take anyone's life in the course of their duties. But given the number of arrests they make each year, around 10 million, and the number of deadly weapons attacks on officers, an average of 27 per day, and just 2/3 of the nation's police departments, it's not clear that these 1,000 civilian shooting deaths suggest that law enforcement is out of control. Nevertheless, we can do better. Cops are desperate for more hands-on tactical training, de-escalation practice, and techniques to control stress. Federal support should focus on such practical training to ensure that officers are prepared for the difficult encounters they face daily. Reducing police resources will ultimately result in poorer service to the law-abiding residents of high-crime areas. Officers without backup will be more stressed and at higher risk of poor judgment. Response times will increase. Cash-starved agencies will train less, not more, while lower pay scales will result in less qualified recruits. Yeah, recruits. Given what's going on in places like Chicago, Seattle, that reminds me of a song, Real Joe Cruz.
Which one, sir?
It was about the guy...
The guy that had his heart broken?
Yeah. His girlfriend, he had this bad luck. His girlfriend kept dumping him, right? You remember what he said?
He had his heart broken in 3 places, I think, sir?
He had his heart broken in 3 places.
Where, sir?
Chicago, New York, and Seattle. Yeah, I thought you'd remember that one, Real Joe Cruz. Yeah, anyhow, I can't imagine a young guy, somebody in his mid-20s with some education, some ambition, etc., wanting to be a cop, to sign up to be a rookie cop in New York or Minneapolis or Seattle or Louisville or any of these other places where the city government has run up the white flag. They took down that old Confederate flag and ran up a white flag instead. And let the mob take over. In Seattle, let the mob take over part of the city and call it the Chaz. So it's going to be really difficult to attract good people to be cops, given the way that the mayors, the city and state governments, by the way, all of which are Democrats. Minneapolis has had Democrats, governors, Democrat mayors, Democrat chiefs of police ever since. And they can't understand how these things happen in their city. Yeah. By the way, in Minnesota, they have tried to conceal themselves. They don't call themselves Democrats like they do, say, in Wisconsin. In Minnesota, they call themselves DFL. I'm not going to vote Republican. I'm going DFL this time. What does DFL stand for? Democrat Farmer Labor. But I think they left the farmers behind a long, long time. Farmers are too smart for that kind of stuff. A reduced police presence in minority neighborhoods will claim more black lives. When officers back off of proactive policing under accusations of racism, which is the worst possible thing you can call anybody nowadays. You are a racist. Oh, no, no, no. You know, you're better off with adulterer, murderer, one who commits incest, treason. You're better off with any of those than you are with racists. It's so damning, and you cannot defend against it, because if person A accuses person B, you're a racist, and B says, hey, wait a minute, I'm not a racist. A says, the mere fact that you're protesting makes it clear that you're a racist. Right, Real Joe Cruz?
Sir, I hate to tell you this, but by you talking about that, it's very racist.
Yeah, I guess for me, even going into it, there are folks out there in the international radio listening audience. I'm not a. Oh, no, wait a minute. That turns out to be a confession nowadays, doesn't it?
Yes, sir.
I'm not a racist. Oh, okay, I thought so. Yeah. Okay. After investigations open up in a media-grabbing incident of police use of deadly force in Baltimore, Chicago, Cincinnati, Ferguson, Missouri, and Riverside, California, there were almost 900 excess homicides and almost 34,000 excess felonies. The study showed. Let me go through this again here. When officers back off of proactive policing under accusations of racism, violence shoots up. So you start accusing the cops of racism, you're going to have more violence. That was the case in cities recently examined by Harvard economists. It's from Harvard, so you know it's got to be right. After investigations opened up in a media-grabbing instance of police use of deadly force in Baltimore, Chicago, Cincinnati, Ferguson, Missouri, and Riverside, there were almost 900 excess homicides. In other words, 900 more people got killed during the same time cycle than before. And almost 34,000 excess felonies, their study found. So deconstructing that a little bit, cops are on the beat, right? And they see a violent confrontation, they go down. They're saying to themselves, it's my job to go in there and break this up. But if I do, especially if one of the people in that violent controversy happens to be a person of color, I run a really good risk of being accused of racist, being disciplined, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm just going to back away. That's what this study shows. If you don't want your cops to be involved, get on this, like Ferguson, Missouri. You know, all of the fuss that was created by Ferguson, Missouri. And the cop was in the right. And the criminal was in the wrong. There's just no getting around it. But it probably ruined the cop's life. He lost his job. He's been stigmatized wherever he goes. Back to this editorial. Cops pulled back from discretionary activity, questioning a suspicious person on a known drug corner, for example, and they simply drove on by. Such stops are voluntary. Cops are not mandated to make them. In Chicago, the Harvard economists found the number of police-civilian interactions decreased by almost 90% in the month after the investigation into deadly force was announced. In Riverside, interactions decreased 54%. In St. Louis, initiated police activities declined by 46%. By contrast, in cities where incidents of police use of force were under investigation but did not go viral or grab national attention, homicides and total crime went down. Police officers were not afraid to continue policing. This year on Sunday, May 31, Chicago had its deadliest day in 60 years. Over the course of that weekend, 25 people were killed and another 85 shot. The reason? An overmatched police force was overwhelmed by the rampant looting and upheavals and had little deterrent presence on the ground. There's suddenly this vacuum that opens up, says Max Capiston, the senior research director at a local crime lab, and you see an absurd amount of carnage. Bad cops of all races must be removed, but the overwhelming majority of officers are in their jobs because of people like that Mount Hope resident who looks out her window hoping to see the police nearby. It is these vulnerable residents who will be most hurt if the defund police activists have their own way. Well, yeah, Heather, you nailed it. You right on target. Now, I think the next question is, how badly will the politically correct folks treat Heather McDonald? I don't know where she works, but I have a feeling that she's going to take a lot of grief off this. She's not sticking with the party line. You know, Democrats know better than this. All right, let's take a short break here, and I'll go to the Post right after the break.
The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts of Guam Training.
Hi, I'm Jerry Roberts, and every day on The Ray Gibson Show, I get to comment on the incredibly diverse, fun, challenging, sometimes frustrating, often exciting, but always interesting world of work. I hope you'll be there with us.
You can find daily transcripts of The Extra Point at GuamTraining.com. Tune in every weekday morning at 7:20 for The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts. Brought to you by Guahan Insurance Services and First Hawaiian Bank on 93.3 The Point.
Grab and win up to $500 with Budweiser from now until July. Pick up Bud Family and Limerita Family 12-packs, fill out the entry form inside, and place it in the drop box for your chance to win up to $500. Budweiser will be drawing winners weekly, so head to Current Guam on Facebook or Instagram to see if you're a lucky winner. Must be 21 to participate. See currentguam.com for rules, drop box locations, and more info. Budweiser reminds you to please drink responsibly.
Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Security Title, providing solutions for complex real estate transactions.
And now back to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, the one radio show politicians don't want you to listen to. Call now, 888-TALK. That's 888-8255.
Okay, well, we go to the Post, and it's actually a little bit more law enforcement here, too, but of a different kind. The Post says current administration can't defy Guam law that prohibits electronic gambling machines. We elect an attorney general through the ballot box because we, the voters, want this position to be out of reach of the governor's influence. Back in the day when we used to have appointed attorneys general, where the governor would appoint the attorney general, and the attorney general would be asked to opine on a controversial subject, local wisecrackers in the audience would say, yeah, that's going to work really well. The governor plays the attorney general like a radio or like a jukebox. Our elected Attorney General's role during the time of Elizabeth Barrett Anderson and now Levin Camacho has worked the way voters expected to, particularly on the issue of electronic gambling machines. Guam law forbids electronic gambling machines, and the regulations the Department of Revenue and Tax has used in prior gubernatorial administrations have recently been found invalid. So there's a mark right there. Recently been found invalid by a Superior Court decision in March. For years, RevTax has defied the AG's legal opinion that the department's business license branch should stop issuing these electronic gambling machine licenses. The Superior Court decision in March was issued in favor of the AG's stance after the Supreme Court of Guam in 2017 reversed the lower court's prior decision. The lower court's prior decision had allowed RevTax under the then Governor Eddie Kau's administration to continue to issue licenses to these game room machines. It's not yet clear whether RevTax under Governor Leon Guerrero will finally follow the legal advice of the People's Attorney General. As of this writing, RevTax told the Guam Daily Post a decision on the gambling licenses will be released by the department's legal counsel soon. Now, I didn't know the Department of Revenue and Taxation had a legal counsel. And if the Post dug into this a little bit, they would tell us the name of the department's legal counsel, because I don't think the department has one. What we know is that as of last month, the licenses to operate electronic gaming machines and game rooms had expired. All eyes are now on the governor and her RevTax management appointees and whether they decide to follow the law. Under the Calvo administration, then Attorney General Elizabeth Barrett Anderson sued Rev and Tax Director John Camacho and Governor Calvo in 2013. The complaint alleged that RevTax, under the directive of the governor, issued 217 licenses to electronic gaming device to owners, according to the Supreme Court background on the case. The Attorney General sued after the Calvo administration continued to issue licenses even after the Attorney General advised RevTax to refrain from issuing licenses and to revoke outstanding licenses. The case before the Supreme Court states, Justices Robert Torres, Catherine Merriman, and F. Philip Carbolito issued a ruling in 2017 that reversed the Superior Court's earlier decision favoring RevTax's stance. The writing is on the wall for the Leon Guerrero administration. Beyond the legal arguments, the voters have spoken out on the issue of electronic gambling. The people of Guam disfavor gambling machines, and in a 2008 referendum voted against them, the Attorney General states in papers filed last month. 2 game room operators have recently filed court papers essentially arguing the Superior Court's most recent decision should be placed on hold while they file an appeal. One argument made by the operators in court papers is that more than 300 jobs will be lost without the ability of the game rooms to operate electronic gaming machines. The game room businesses also made an argument that without the ability to keep those jobs, they would be unable to seek forgiveness of their federally funded pandemic loans. The arguments from the game room operators serve their interest, and they can argue all they want. But from the public interest perspective, there is really nothing left for the current governor and her RevTax administrators to defy the series of Attorney General legal opinions in the most recent court decisions. Continued defiance of Guam law against illegal gambling machines by no less than the government of Guam officials, sends the message that laws are applied differently to people in different circumstances. Our elected Attorney General has determined that Guam law was broken and continues to be broken. No one has been held accountable yet. Well, that is until you held them accountable today, Guam Daily Post. Can I have a drum roll there, Real Joe Cruz? The Post really earned it today. That was a fine editorial. Yeah, and that's what the panel of judges here on Tall Tales looks for. You know, find a problem that affects people here on the island, describe the problem, lay out the factual basis for it, tell what ought to be done, tell who ought to be do it, and put the one who's supposed to have done it in an embarrassing position for not having done what? Oh, I almost said he, Real Joe Cruz. Put the one who should have taken the appropriate action in an embarrassing position so that they have to take the blame for it. Good editorial. Okay, let's go to the card. I didn't even say anything, Real Joe Cruz.
My computer, sir. We're having computer issues.
You sure it's not operator error?
Oh, no, it's never, sir.
Never operator error.
Never, sir. Highly trained, silent, swift, and deadly, fast and furious.
Very good, Real Joe Cruz. Let's ring the bell for the card. Save the beep beep. Yeah. Save that for facetious comments by the host, okay? And by the way, could you do me a favor?
Sure, sir.
Yeah, not award any more Facebook stars today.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Okay, this is what I got on the card today. I've got Troy versus Janela, 53 days. I've got Tina versus Emergency. Well, we're back down to 1. I've got Louise Munya versus Unemployment, and Louise is up to 10 now. And I've got Jim Woke versus the Coin Toss. Now, this had been on the card as Jim the Wokester versus the Unemployed and the Franchise. And then I've got Chamorro Self-Determination versus Fear. You're probably going to want to have that 19th floor sound effect ready to go there, Real Joe Cruz. So, Chamorro Self-Determination versus Fear. This had been on the card as Ryan Calvo versus Prutehi Litection. But if you read the papers and watch TV, you know that Ryan Calvo has been canceled. The cancel culture. If we find someone who did something wrong 20 years ago and has led an exemplary life since that time, we can cancel him. And if we find someone who did something wrong last weekend, we can certainly cancel him. So Ryan Calvo has been canceled. You know who canceled him, Real Joe Cruz?
Himself?
He canceled himself.
Okay.
Yeah. Talk about being woke. Yeah, right? He started out not being woke at all, but when he canceled himself, I suspect a lot of folks are sitting around saying, man, that Ryan Calvo, he's woke.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay, so then we also have the Badgers versus Wrigley Field. We'll hang on to that one till the 7th inning stretch. And then I've got Junkin Poe versus Black Lives Matter, if we get to it. Okay, so as far as Tina versus Emergency, you know, we keep tabs on how long Tina can go before she finds a danger to the public health as it were, to the public, what is it, the public, I better find the right words here. I suspect Tina probably knows them a lot better than I do. Emergency conditions exist involving danger to the public health or safety. If emergency conditions exist involving danger to the public health or safety, the Speaker of the Legislature can cancel the public hearing requirement for bills so that a bill could come to the floor of the legislature and never have been to a public hearing if the Speaker of the Legislature, who is now Tina Rose Munya Barnes, makes a determination that emergency conditions exist involving danger to the public health or safety. Well, Tina detected the emergency again when James Woke Moylan and Joe St. Augustine's bills that would tamper with the primary were introduced. So Tina said these bills obviously involve emergency conditions involving danger to the public health or safety. Unfortunately, it doesn't say, for Tina, it doesn't say democracy because that's where the danger lies. But anyhow, Tina did it again, so her count up, she's back to 1 day now. It's been only 1 day since she'd seen that danger. Janela versus Troy. Janela's up to 54 days. It's been 54 days since the pronunciamento of Crystal Paco San Augustine, formerly known as Crystal Paco, said that Janela did not have to apologize and that there would never again would there be muting and cutting off reporters in mid-sentence, which is what Janela did to get this recognition in the first place. And then finally, we have Luis Borja Muñoz versus unemployment. And there hasn't been much news on what benefits Luis has applied for lately. You'll recall she distinguished herself by applying for unemployment, notwithstanding the fact that she has a $55,307 per year sinecure at the Guam legislature. And I hypothesize that maybe she thought when she read the instructions, well, if you're not working, then you can apply for unemployment. And certainly I'm not working at the legislature. So since I'm not working, I guess I could apply. But then later on, apparently she had a stroke of conscience and sent in a letter and saying, I'm withdrawing my application. I'm not eligible. I made a genuine mistake. So a masterpiece of public relations, coming forward and saying, I made a genuine mistake. And that propelled her all the way to the 20th spot on the poll that Ray read yesterday about who's going to finish where in the elections. She worked her way all the way down to the 20th spot. Now, we still haven't gotten to the bottom. All of this about Louise Muñoz applying for unemployment insurance when she had a $55,000 job. We haven't, she has pretty much cleared the record there. She said she did it. She withdrew her application. She said it was a genuine mistake, but we haven't gotten to the really important question, which was made known to us by May Habib in a June 30 story where she covered the Louise Muñoz angle. And then she said, a bigger question. And all this is how Muñoz's application information ever reached the media. Yeah, I was really concerned about that. How did this ever get to the media? So we're just going to, maybe me, Habib, will tell us, maybe she's doing some kind of investigative reporting, because that's the bigger question. That's much more important than Munoz applying for unemployment when she's making $55,000 a year. Okay, the next item on the card is GPD, Guam Police Department, versus Chotfris. This would be Mark Chotfris. And Mark Chotfris achieved a victory before the Supreme Court. Mark Chotfris was disciplined by the police department. He won at the Civil Service Commission, he won at the Superior Court, and now he's won at the Supreme Court. Now, I know what a lot of people out there are saying. It's just kind of human nature to root for the underdog, right? That's why so many people are Cub fans. If you want to root for the underdog, root for the Cubs, because you won't have to change your allegiance except once every 100 years. So, people have this tendency to think, oh boy, the employee won, that's great. But if you stop to think it over, when the employee wins, you lose. All right, let's take a short break here, and I'll come right back to Mark Chotfris and the Guam Police Department.
At the mall, as you enjoy your shopping, dining, or entertainment, you could also win 3 great cars from Atkins Kroll. And thousands of prizes in Micronesia Mall's Cars, Prizes, and Getaways game. Present your mall receipts and have a chance to win the 3rd car, the head-turning Lexus ES350 Luxury. Getaways to Manila, courtesy of Philippine Airlines. Plus prizes from Foot Locker and Burger King. Mark your calendar. Drawing date moved to August 22nd, 2020. It's Micronesia Mall's Cars, Prizes, and Getaways game.
Are you or a loved one in need of wheelchair transportation? Do you have a medical appointment or family event you don't want to miss? At Access Medical Transport, they offer wheelchair accessible service 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Available at your convenience, let them help you get to your destination. To learn more about their wheelchair transportation service, contact them today, 646-6970. At Access Medical Transport, they treat their patients like family. Thank you, and be safe, Guam.
Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Mezcla Chamorro Fusion Bistro. They're open in Hagåtña, and they're ready for dine-in, takeout, and delivery services from Monday through Saturday, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m., 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. Call them at 479-2652 and get your Mezcla fix today.
Yeah, so when the employee wins in one of these employee discipline cases, that's great. You're out there rooting for the underdog, rage against the machine. Yeah, good for him. The administration's corrupt. I'm glad he won. But when I'm sorry, real joke. I didn't mean to offend your delicate sensibilities. The people, the people out there in Radio Land would be saying, Mark Chotfris won. I'm glad they won. Yeah, right. Yeah. But when that happens, you lose, because the determination that it was a bad bust means that the government is going to have to pay back pay. And in the case of the Port 7, if you've been following, it's huge amounts of money. And I've spent a lot of time talking about that. I have a feeling I'm not done talking about it yet. But back to GPD versus Mark Chotfris. This one proceeded all the way from the police department to the Supreme Court. Probably the reason that it had to go to the Supreme Court for a final determination, because the Guam Police Department, I don't think, can avail itself of the services of the Wolf. You remember who the Wolf is, Real Joe Cruz?
The cleaner from Pulp Fiction, sir.
Yeah.
He makes all the messes go away.
Yeah. And do we have a local equivalent on Guam to the Wolf?
I believe so, sir. I can't recall his name right now.
Does the name Luis Baza sound familiar?
A former Civil Service Commission member?
Chairman.
Chairman. Oh,
Chairperson.
pardon me.
Yeah. So he made all of the messes go away, just like that. But the police department apparently doesn't have access to the services of the Wolf, so this one had to be done in the old-fashioned way. Now, the Attorney General's office cleared the record on this. You wouldn't know what happened in the Chotfers case by reading the Post. The Post really screwed this up. They said that Chotfers is a little closer to getting his job back. Not so. And here's what it's all about. Civil Service Commission attorney, as you were. The Supreme Court of Guam this week upheld the demotion. I didn't say termination, I said demotion of former Guam Police Department Colonel Mark Chotfers. But the court's action doesn't impact Chotfers' firing, according to the Office of the Attorney General. A quote, this Supreme Court decision addresses one of two adverse actions against Chotfers, specifically his demotion. This decision does not have an impact on the police department's termination of Chotfers. The Civil Service Commission upheld his termination and is pending in the Superior Court of Guam, the AG's office stated. A judicial review is pending in the Superior Court. Chotfers in 2017 was demoted from his rank as colonel and then was fired in connection with an incident that happened Christmas Eve 2016. Boy, was it long ago, real Joe Cruz?
No, sir.
Fireworks in Agate Bloodtown. You remember that?
I do, sir.
Yeah. Video from a police body camera surfaced and was circulated on social media showing Chotfers yelling at police officers in Agate and telling them to move their vehicles. GPD previously said the officers were responding to reports of fireworks in the village. Chotfers went to the Civil Service Commission to fight his demotion and his termination. The demotion and the termination were two separate cases. Chotfers was terminated for insubordination after he disobeyed the police chief's instructions to not publicly discuss the Agate incident. So Chotfers goes to Agate Bloodtown on Christmas Eve, sees some officers dealing with those people shooting off fireworks, starts hollering at them, etc., did something that to cause the chief of police to demote Chotfers. Chotfers is then ordered not to discuss this publicly. Chotfers does, and because he was insubordinate, disobeyed the chief's orders, he was fired. So the demotion is what the Supreme Court just decided. The termination, the police department wanted the Civil Service Commission. There is now judicial review pending at the Superior Court. The commission voided Chotfers' demotion based on a procedural mistake by GPD during the Civil Service Commission hearing. GPD wanted to call Chotfers as its first witness. Commissioners denied that request. CSC procedure was for the employee to testify after management's made its case. GPD protested and did not call its other witnesses. Okay, so this is what happened. Chotfers goes before the Civil Service Commission. At the Civil Service Commission, the burden of proof and the burden of going forward is on management. Management has to put on a case before the commission as to why the government employee was disciplined, in this case demoted, and whether or not the discipline was appropriate for the misconduct. And what was involved here at the beginning of the police department's case, the police department's lawyer called Chotfers as a witness. And the Civil Service Commission ruled, no, you can't call Chotfris as a witness in this case. You have to wait until after management, after the defendant puts on its case in chief, and then if Chotfris doesn't testify, then you can call him as a witness. Now, I've mentioned before that the rules are so stacked against management and in favor of the employee anyhow that commissioners don't have to worry about, putting their thumb on the scale. The rules really favor the employee. This is a classic example because the witnesses are excluded in any kind of hearing so that witnesses can't listen to the testimony and then conform their own testimony to what somebody else said. This is a sequestering of the witnesses fosters the truth determination process. But of course, as Chotfris is the respondent, he cannot be sequestered during the government's case. He has to sit in and listen. So I'm going to come back to the Civil Service Commission right after we have our big halftime show.
The Point is KUSG, Hagåtña, Guam, 93.3 FM and 104.3 HD3.
The president awaits a big decision this morning. I'm Jack Callahan, Fox News. The Supreme Court will reveal their rulings on two cases related to the president's taxes.
The cases concern whether the president can stop the Democratic-controlled House of Representatives from getting financial and banking records from the president's accounting firm and banks, and whether the president can block a subpoena from the Manhattan District Attorney seeking the president's tax returns as part of a criminal investigation. The president's attorneys argue that the House subpoenas and the subpoenas from the New York DA were unprecedented, and they asked for temporary presidential immunity. The president has fought the subpoenas for over a year, but lower courts, both at the district court and appellate levels, have ruled against him.
Fox's John Decker. Yesterday, the justices overwhelmingly sided with the administration in the Affordable Care Act exemptions it granted to the Little Sisters of the Poor and others from the requirement that they provide birth control coverage to their employees. Today is the last day of the Supreme Court's current term, a day when justices sometimes will announce their retirement. The Fox's Supreme Court correspondent Shannon Bream tells the Fox News Rundown podcast.
I don't expect any. There's been a lot of speculation about Justice Thomas and Justice Alito. I will be very surprised if either of them or anyone else on the bench announces a retirement. It seems in the middle of an election year.
Coronavirus cases still surging in several states, but the average patient age is dropping dramatically. Health and Human Services Secretary Alex Azar telling Fox News at night that's a good thing.
We don't want anyone to get coronavirus, but younger individuals do much better from a health perspective in terms of their prognosis and recovery.
The tally by Johns Hopkins University puts the U.S. confirmed corona case count at beyond 3 million. Wall Street up Wednesday, another record high for NASDAQ. Asian stock markets closing Thursday mixed. America is listening to Fox News.
Grab and win up to $500 with Budweiser from now until July. Pick up Bud Family and Limerita Family 12-packs, fill out the entry form inside, and place it in the drop box for your chance to win up to $500. Budweiser will be drawing winners weekly, so head to Current Guam on Facebook or Instagram to see if you're a lucky winner. Must be 21 to participate. See currentguam.com for rules, drop box locations, and more info. Budweiser reminds you to please drink responsibly.
You've got a job to do. Having the right equipment for the job is critical, and East West Rental has the exact tools you need. Get it done faster with the right stuff, whether it's landscaping tools, concrete tools, lifts, trucks, lights, generators, trench boxes, welders, tents, tables, and chairs. They're here to help you tackle any project you're working on, big or small. Open Monday to Saturday, 7 to 5, closed Sundays. Find what you're looking for at East West Rental Center in Upper Tumont or call 646-1463.
President Trump and Mexico's President Lopez Obrador signing the new U.S.-Mexico-Canada trade agreement late Wednesday at the White House.
We reflect on all that our two people have accomplished together over the span of many generations, and we embrace the incredible opportunities that lay ahead.
The deal replaces the North American Free Trade Agreement signed more than 20 years ago, which President Trump had called one of the worst trade deals the U.S. ever signed. A group of labor unions threatening a symbolic walkout later this month.
The workers' demands, according to the Associated Press, include a mandate that corporations and government agencies declare Black Lives Matter. And elected officials, they say, must pass laws that guarantee people of all races thrive. The president of the Service Employees International Union said economic justice cannot happen without racial justice. So they want employers and companies to give them higher wages and allow all workers to unionize to negotiate better health care, sick leave, and child care support. July 20th, union workers and their supporters say they will be walking off the job for more than 8 minutes in honor of the amount of time a Minneapolis police officer kept his knee on George Floyd's neck, killing him. Jessica Rosenthal, Fox News.
Defense Secretary Mark Esper and General Mark Milley, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, will testify to congressional committees on Wednesday. They're likely to be asked about reported Russian bounties on U.S. service persons in Afghanistan and the possible use of the military to quell domestic violence. One person is dead. Several homes have been destroyed in the western Minnesota town of Ashby. The National Weather Service posting extreme heat warnings for parts of 14 states for Wednesday. Temperatures close to 100 degrees expected in several areas. The National Park Service says boat tours to the USS Arizona Memorial in Hawaii's Pearl Harbor will resume on Friday after a 3-month closure over the coronavirus. I'm Jack Callahan. This is Fox News.
Mezcla Chamorro Fusion Bistro in Hagåtña is taking your local favorite dishes and serve them with extra flair. Mezcla is ready to serve you and your family for your dine-in experience and takeout services. To ensure everyone's safety and comfort, Team Mezcla has taken further steps in maintaining a clean and sanitized area for you and your family while dining in. For more information, please call 479-2652 or 479-2653. Mezcla Chamorro Fusion Bistro, a true taste of Guam.
Hafa, this is Carl from APL Guam. Here at APL, our expertise and extensive network can help you grow your business and reach out to more markets. As a responsible carrier, APL is also committed to a sustainable future. Whether it's protecting the environment or investing our efforts in giving back to the community, our dedicated team in Guam and on the U.S. mainland are here to support you. Call 588-4651 or visit apl.com.
Wow, nice smile. So perfect and all.
Thanks. I owe it all to Dr. Robert Yang and his smile team. They do wonders for a healthy, happy mouth.
Got teeth? Don't wait until they hurt. Schedule your routine checkup and cleaning with Dr. Yang and his smile team. Suite 119 in the East West Business Center, Upper Tumont. Call 647-8702 or 3.
The best thing that happened to teeth since toothpaste.
Dr. Yang and his smile team.
They make smiles happen.
Talk Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Bank Pacific, banking on the Pacific for 66 years.
So, seventh inning stretch coming to you from Wrigley
No,
Field.
sir. That was the halftime show.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm ahead of myself here.
That's okay.
Yeah, I was digging for materials I'm going to use for the seventh inning stretch. Yeah. So let me try that again, Real Joe Cruz. Well, there it was, that big halftime show that we've all come to know and love so well, that we groove on every day. It's one of the greatest shows in the radio world. The marching bands, the cheerleaders, the drill team, etc., with that barrage of cannon fire at the end. So here we are. Now we're back to the Civil Service Commission and Mark Chotfris. So as I was explaining, when Chotfris came before the Civil Service Commission, the government's lawyer wanted to call him first. And the Civil Service Commission said, no, you can't call him. You have to wait until after he puts on his defense. You put on your case in chief, he puts on his defense, and if he doesn't testify, then you can call him. And I mentioned that this really is a significant advantage for the employee and a significant detriment to management, because the employee can sit there and listen to all of the evidence in management's case and say, well, let's see, that guy said that it was 2 o'clock, and this other witness said it was 2 o'clock, so I can see that's going to be really important. So when it's my turn to testify, I'm going to testify that I forgot to wear my watch that day and I didn't know what time it was. Now, you know, this imputes a certain amount of dishonesty to the government employee who's the respondent here. But even in the absence of that, it's a real advantage for the defendant, for the respondent, the employee, to sit and listen to all of the testimony from the other side before he has to testify. And it really makes it much easier for him to put on compelling testimony. But that's what the Civil Service Commission ruled. Well, then the government's employee didn't put on a case at all. When the commission did not allow the government's lawyer to call Chotfris first, the government attorney rested. Chotfris put in his case. The government employee appealed to the Superior Court. Well, first of all, he went for a writ of mandate at the Superior Court, writ denied, and then he tried to raise that same issue on judicial review. Superior Court turned him down, and then he took an appeal to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court sustained the Superior Court decision in what I think is an extremely unfortunate decision, because the Supreme Court decided that there is a conflict between two sets of rules, the Civil Service Commission rules and the rules in the administrative, administrative adjudication law, which we're all familiar with, because you know that in order to promulgate a rule, you have to go through what people refer to as the AAA, but it's really the administrative adjudication law. Well, there are two parts to that law. One deals with rulemaking, and then the other one deals with tribunals. And the one that deals with tribunals says that anytime the government attempts to do something detrimental to a person, he's entitled to a hearing in accordance with the AAL. So the Supreme Court, the Superior Court said, we got to follow those administrative adjudication law rules, not the civil service rules. And the Supreme Court sustained. So this puts management at another huge disadvantage. Now, my own analysis of the law was that the Supreme Court should have gone the other way, but it didn't. So what this does is provide a golden opportunity for the chairman of the Judiciary Committee to go in and fix parts of the Civil Service Commission law that need to be fixed. When do you think that's going to happen? What do you think, Real Joe Cruz?
For never?
I was going to say the 12th. The
12th?
The 12th of never.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I don't think Therese July is interested in this. And even if she were, conventional wisdom around the legislature is that any personnel rule, whatever it is, that tends to hold employees to a higher standard is political suicide. The employees won't like it. They won't vote for you. So it's going to be very difficult to get the legislature to come in and straighten out this conflict in a manner that serves the public interest, not the employees' interest. So that's Guam Police Department versus Chotfris. I don't know when his case will be resolved by the Superior Court. The Superior Court is moving at such a snail's pace. Chotfris, I suspect, is somewhere in his 50s. He probably will live long enough to see this resolved, but the way the court is operating now, it's only about an even money bet. You can go to, I've been going to King's after Mass on Sunday, and it's almost like the old King's. I go in, I wear my mask in the door, I go over and sit down at my table. If you go to King's, you'll know what I'm talking about. And the waitress comes over, and I keep my mask on. She has her mask on. I order my wife and I order our breakfast. Breakfast comes. We take our masks off. We eat breakfast. We go up to the cashier to pay. Cashier's wearing a mask. Cashier's behind a plexiglass shield. We're all wearing our masks. We pay, and away we go. Doesn't seem to be that hard. But if the same management that ran the Superior Court ran King's, what we would have to do, we would have a choice as to the way we ordered. We could either write our order down on a piece of paper and put it in a box outside of King's, secure in the fact that that box would be emptied by 5 o'clock every day. Or we could send an email to King's telling King's what it was that we wanted for breakfast. But we wouldn't be able to go into King's. And when it came time to pay, that would be very complicated also. So the court, I have to wonder, the executive branch has made adjustments concerning the Wuhan virus. The legislature made, remember when they were on strike, they made a huge adjustment. But the court just seems to have the attitude that, well, with the Wuhan virus in town, the best thing for us to do is to crawl into a hole and then pull a hole in after us. So they're not conducting business, and the business that they are conducting, they make it very, very difficult. I heard, I don't remember where it was, one of the news outlets recently, that 130 criminal cases are waiting for the impaneling of the next grand jury. There are 130 potential indictments that aren't going anywhere because the Superior Court has not impaneled a grand jury and begun grand jury business. This can't be this hard. And everybody else has made some accommodations here. The courts are extremely difficult to deal with. So that's what I'm saying. If Mark Chotfris is in his mid-50s, he probably will live long enough to see his case resolved. If you talk about, the vulnerable people being over 60, yeah, they're vulnerable in that regard also. Okay, next I've got on the card, I've got Jim W. What does the W stand for, Real Joe Cruz?
Onassis?
The W.
Oh, woke. I'm sorry.
Onassis. W-O-N-N-A-S-I-S.
It would work, sir, if the W was silent.
The W is silent, yeah. That's got to be the answer. So Jim W. versus the coin toss is the caption on a series of stories, the latest of which is senators to get public input on whether to cancel primary races. Now, you'll remember that both Jim W. and Joe S. introduced bills to tamper with the primary election. And Jim wrote to Tina saying, can you call an emergency session? And, that's asking Tina, can you call an emergency session? That's like playing a polka at a barn dance, Tina's right out there whirling around instantly. And, of course, she did her certificate for both bills, so they didn't need public hearings. She certified that there was a condition that would affect the health and safety of the people. So she said, we don't need any public hearings for these bills. But once again, Joe St. Augustine dissed her. So they were in session for 20 minutes a couple of times. They recess until next Tuesday so that Joe St. Augustine could hold a public hearing on these bills. You'd think Tina would catch on one of these days. Anyhow, that's where we are. So this hasn't hit the news. This hasn't hit the news just yet. But Joe St. Augustine and Jim Moylan put together a substitute bill. Kind of, instead of dealing with their own bills, they put together a substitute bill. And the substitute bill has a couple of elements. First element, no primary election. Second element, for any contested races, any contested offices like Washington Rep, there will be a coin toss. Yeah, and the bill says that the bill that Jim and Joe put together said that Maria Pangilinan will report to the legislature bearing a silver dollar. You wouldn't want to decide an important thing like this with a dirty old quarter that somebody dug out of his pocket, right? So Maria Pangilinan is to report to the legislature with a shiny silver dollar. She will flip the coin, and James Woke Moylan will call heads or tails for each of the contested offices. And that's how we'll determine, how we're going to resolve these contested offices without having a primary. And Jim had sent out a press release. He said, my coin toss solution has several advantages. It won't expose a lot of people to the Wuhan virus, one. Two, it will be much cheaper. It will only cost $1. And we're asking Maria to bring that dollar herself. If she can't find a silver dollar, then we'll have to buy one out of the legislature's budget. So it's probably only going to cost us $1, much less Wuhan virus exposure. And it's fair. Nobody can criticize us for not being fair to the two Democrats who are running for Washington office. So the criteria is perfect. The luckiest one goes to the general election ballot, right, real Joe Cruz?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So, we determined a while ago that when I'm being facetious, sometimes people don't realize that I'm being facetious. So the real Joe Cruz will honk that horn just in case you're taking me literally when I go into these little stories about Jim Walk Moylan and his coin toss bill. But I happen to have Jim's bill with me here. Let me see if I can find it. Here's Jim's bill. A person commits a bias-motivated crime if by reason of an actual or perceived race, religion, color, ethnicity, physical, emotional, developmental, sexual orientation, gender identity, political affiliation, national origin, favorite basketball team.
Really? Did you say favorite basketball team?
I did. Did you toot the horn?
No.
Yeah.
I was kind of caught off guard there.
Let's try again. All right, here are the list of identity groups that Jim is protecting. If a person commits a bias-motivated crime, if by reason of actual or perceived race, religion, color, ethnicity, physical, emotional, developmental, sexual orientation, gender identity, political affiliation, favorite basketball team, national origin, wardrobe, occupation, application for unemployment insurance, or ancestry of another individual or group of individuals. He violates chapters blah, 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 blah. Well, Jim pretty well covered the waterfront there with his bill, didn't he? And I asked him, this one about a person commits a bias-motivated crime if by reason of job, it's hard to read this thing, by reason of job, he violates, by reason of job of another individual, he violates Chapter 16 at SEC. So my example was, so if, it really puts a talk show host in jeopardy, because it would be a hate crime for me to be walking down the street and for someone to throw a snowball at me and say, I hate talk show hosts, right? Yeah, so you got to give Jim credit here. I added in the basketball team myself, but he has picked up almost every possible identity group here that could be available, pandering to all of the identity groups, showing that he really understands identity politics, and going from James Camacho Moylan, which is what he used to be, to James Woke Moylan in one swell swoop. Or is it fell swoop?
Yes, sir. The second one.
I like swell, one swell swoop.
I like that one too.
Yeah,
sir.
all right. Not to be outdone by James Woke Moylan, the other bill, another bill that's going to be going to be on the floor on Tuesday, is Bill 330-35, sponsored by Joe San Augustine, with the main sponsor, a certain Kelly Marsh Titano. And this also goes to primary elections. It's an act to add a new section 10-124 to Chapter 10, Title 3, relative to permitting absentee voting in the event of a state of emergency. So she's got the obligatory, she's got more legislative findings than she's got bill. But one of the things that really caught my eye is she says, Legislatura further finds that the American Civil Liberties Union, whoa, that's enough to make me stop reading right there. The American Civil Liberties Union recommends that multiple methods of requesting an absentee ballot, such as online options, be made available to voters. Ballots postmarked by Election Day are accepted and counted. In-person secured drop boxes be made available through Election Day throughout the district until polls close, and for states to begin processing absentee ballots prior to Election Day. So the ACLU is way over there on the left. So if you want people to make sure, if you want to make sure that people realize you're woke, then tell us how the ACLU wants things done, and we'll know that you're woke. But this almost seems superfluous in the case of Senator Titano, who is about as woke as anybody in the legislature. She and Sabina Paris kind of are jousting to see which one of them is the most strident environmental wacko. But I think that Titano is in the lead. So then here's her bill. You know, I've said this before. I've seen a lot of bills, but I have never seen anything like this. She says, in a state of emergency as declared by Imagahagan Guahan. Now, it doesn't reference a statute. So the way this bill is worded, Imagahagan Guam could come on this radio program and say, hey, Bob, there's an emergency. I'm declaring a state of emergency. And that would be good enough for Senator Titano's bill. It doesn't cite the section in chapter, as you were, Title 10, Chapter 19, where the governor has the ability to declare a state of emergency. It just, in a state of emergency as declared by the governor, sections 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 sections in Chapter 10 are which prescribe administrative procedures for absentee voting, according to the bill, shall be suspended. Like there were naughty children at school. Hey, Section 101, 10101, Section 10101, we saw you smoking. You're suspended. How do you suspend a statute? It's not a good word to use for legislative drafting, but if you're going to suspend something, wouldn't you suspend the operation of the statute? To say that you're suspending the statute, that means that statute has to go to the principal's office. And the principal is going to call the parents of that statute, and that statute's not going to be able to go back to class until his parents come into school. Yeah. That's what you're saying here, Senator Titano. Okay, now we're coming up the 7th inning stretch.
The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts of Guam Training.
Hi, I'm Jerry Roberts, and every day on The Ray Gibson Show, I get to comment on the incredibly diverse, fun, challenging, sometimes frustrating, often exciting, but always interesting world of work. I hope you'll be there with us.
You can find daily transcripts of The Extra Point at guamtraining.com. Tune in every weekday morning at 7:20 for The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts, brought to you by Guahan Insurance Services and First Hawaiian Bank on 93.3 The Point.
As we stand up to coronavirus by standing back with social distancing, Bank Pacific reminds you that you can come to the bank without going to the bank. Use many of our other delivery platforms like online banking at bankpacific.com, accessing cash at our ATMs, shopping with our debit cards. For businesses, we have secure cash and check drop windows, and we are employing a new smarter mobile app with remote deposit capture in the next few weeks. We're all in this together, and together we will win. Bank Pacific. Where others put branches, we place roots. Member FDIC.
Center field bleachers, Wrigley Field, Chicago, and I got some bad news for you here. I have a story that I picked up on a post. Wisconsin Badgers game against Northwestern moved from Wrigley Field.
No.
Yeah. Bad news. The University of Wisconsin football team will not play Northwestern at Wrigley Field this season. Northwestern's athletic department and the Chicago Cubs announced Wednesday the decision to move the game, which is scheduled for November 7. The move was made due to a number of uncertainties caused by, guess what, Real Joe Cruz?
Coronavirus? Wuhan virus. The Wuhan virus.
Yeah, you got it right the second time.
The Kung flu.
Yeah, the Kung flu, right.
You better Hong Kong believe it.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's too bad because, I probably would have gone back there for that game on November 7th and done a remote broadcast, right?
Can do, sir.
Yeah, I could, but I can't now because the game has been moved. However, there's an agreement in place for 2022, 2024, and 2026. So, as we always say when we're talking about sports and games, especially when the game doesn't go the way we want it to go, we always say, wait till next year. Yeah, just wait till next year. Okay, so much for the seventh inning stretch. So I'm getting a good chuckle out of it. This is a bill that was introduced on the 15th of 15th of June, and then it came on in the session yesterday, or in the special session, and the session was called to order, and then Senator Taitano asked for a 3-hour recess so people could study her substitute bill. Plan ahead, right? Plan ahead. So then when they came back, they decided, well, we need to check with federal officials before we do anything with any of these bills. Of course, they couldn't have decided that until they were in session. And I'm wondering what federal officials they checked with concerning our Guam elections. And of course, we'll never find out. So I suspect that if they send a copy of Senator Taitano's bill, the federal officials will get a pretty good chuckle out of it, because going on now, first thing she does is suspend 6 statutes, not the provisions, not the operation, etc. She suspends the statutes, makes them time out, go stand in the corner. And then she goes on to say, notwithstanding any other provision under Guam law, the commission shall be authorized. Okay, now shall be authorized. Is that present tense or future tense, Real Joe Cruz?
Future, sir.
Yeah. Someday the commission is going to be authorized to do something. Doesn't read the same as, notwithstanding any other provision under Guam law, the commission is authorized. So it says, shall be authorized.
Language is very important, sir.
That's what statutes are made of, is language. Yeah, words. Yeah. Okay, so at that unknown time in the future, the commission shall be authorized to make, adopt, promulgate, or enforce. Boy, that sounds pretty inclusive, doesn't it, Real Joe Cruz?
Yes, sir.
To make, adopt, promulgate, or enforce new forms and procedures for conduct of elections held during a state of emergency through a duly adopted resolution. So she's wiping out the statutes which tell how this is to be done, and then she's saying sometime in the future the commission can do this. Well, legislatures can delegate some of their legislative authority to administrative bodies, but they have to provide the standard for the delegation. You can't just say, go ahead and write this law and do a good job, which is basically what she said here. No standard that the Election Commission is to comply with. So the Election Commission could come back and say, well, the forms all have to be on black slate. And the only thing you could use to fill out the forms would be white chalk. It would be in compliance with the statute. And then it goes on to say, the commission shall prescribe the form or affidavit declaring under penalty of perjury that the person is a qualified voter. Well, you could do it by affidavit, or you could do it on a declaration under penalty of perjury. But do you want to do both? It's usually one or the other. That the person is a qualified voter. Next section, any qualified voter of Guam may, subject to requirements prescribed by the commission, vote in any election by absentee ballot. So now now she's delegating the authority to set requirements for voting absentee to the commission. Good argument for part-time legislature. What we'll do is we'll adopt Jim and Joe's flip the coin bill, and then we'll leave all other lawmaking up to the election commission, and we don't need to have a legislature at all. And then C, any qualified voter of Guam. Now, it's good that you put the of Guam in there. Otherwise, it could be for, Northern Marianas or Chuuk or the Marshall Islands or whatever. Any qualified voter of Guam may request an application for absentee ballot and the absentee ballot prior to a date and time as determined and in a manner prescribed by the commission. An application or request submitted for the primary election shall be considered an application or request for the subsequent general election. So what Marsh Titano has done here with her bill 330-35, I could have done this in one sentence. The legislature delegates all of its authority concerning absentee voting to the election commission. It wouldn't pass constitutional muster, but this one doesn't either. So after the session was adjourned, there was a mention of meeting with the election commission. I'm hoping that somebody at the election commission says, toss this away and forget it. This is not legislation. This is, this is kids playing with a typewriter is what it amounts to. So Senator Titano, you're going to have to work a little harder than this. You're a full-time legislature. You have counsel down there. I think you have 2 lawyers down there. You can't let the kids in your office, just because they know how to operate a word processor, you can't let them draft your bills, or you're going to come up with stuff like this. You should be embarrassed. Probably won't be, though. Okay, so whatever happened to another Carl? Did you open up the Our Carl?
All the lines are open, sir. The Jimmy lines, the Our Carls, the Our Fred lines.
Really?
Yes, sir. Even the Another Joe lines are open.
How about the hotlines to the McDonald's drive-thru?
Yes, sir. All drive-thrus are open.
The hotline is open, huh?
Yes, sir. Jack has all the avenues to make it in the call.
Okay. Well, I'm surprised I haven't heard from our Carl yet. Well, I'm going to start a little bit here and then break for the home stretch. The next item on the card is Chamorro self-determination versus fear. And there's a lot of stuff here. It picks up on what I've been ranting about concerning Laura Sauter's 4th of July piece. And I've got some other stuff. I'm going to spend a little time on this because this whole Chamorro separatist movement requires, I think, a certain amount of attention that it's not getting, and you're not going to get the full scoop on it from the so-called Commission on Decolonization, which is really just the Commission for Chamorro Independence. So I have a op-ed piece that ran in the Post today by Travis Wells of the San Lago Coalition, Julia Faye Munoz of Ihagan Famalawan Guahan, and Dewey Huffer, Statehood for Guam. And they're members, they are members of the Fanogi Coalition, which I think is that group of 31 organizations or something like that. So here's how the article goes. It's entitled, Not to be Feared, Chamorro Self-Determination and Decolonization. Well, when you're talking Chamorro decolonization, before I even get into this article, when I'm living in a place that says we're going to do something that looks a lot like an election, dealing with the political status of the place where I'm going to spend the rest of my life, and I don't get to vote, I'm already afraid. And I don't scare easily. But that's enough to scare me. So if you don't want, if it's not to be feared, you separatists, you got a heavy burden here that you're going to have to pick up and carry. So here's how now I suspect we're going to get our Carl now because we're on his favorite subject. Here's how the article goes. The Fanogi Coalition, a network of 37 different nonprofits, organizations, studio associations, and businesses, was formed this year to help provide accurate information on issues regarding self-determination and decolonization and help the community understand the importance of this issue. The coalition plans to hold candidate forums and other activities to help elevate public dialogue during the 2020 campaign season. There is a great amount of distortion in the media and community about terms like Chamorro self-determination or decolonization. The Fanogi Coalition hopes to address these misconceptions and fill the gaps in knowledge. For example, contrary to one might read in the news or hear on the radio, the recent end of the Davis case did not end this movement or even fundamentally alter its trajectory. We're still going to spend abundant amounts of taxpayer money on the Chamorro Independence Commission. Yeah. In fact, while the Ninth Circuit Court did affirm the local district court's ruling on the Davis case, it also took great pains to clarify that their decision did not speak to whether or not it was appropriate to seek justice. Now, I can't imagine the Ninth Circuit or any court of appeals come out and say, oh, it's not appropriate to seek justice. And, of course, justice is a very malleable word. Justice usually means the result I'm looking for. The result that you're looking for, no, that'd be unjust. All right. Or some resolution to the long-standing issues that have impacted the Chamorro people. It was a reminder that even with the programmatic maze of federal territorial legal precedents, what is a programmatic maze of federal territorial legal precedents that often disempower territories? The cause of Chamorro self-determination could still be considered just. This is why Chamorro self-determination is not a narrow or meaningless issue. Far from it. It is an issue that goes to the heart of our island's community, but not all of the community, only part of the community. It is built on the premise that the Chamorro people deserve to be treated. Here we go. The Chamorro people deserve to be treated with dignity and respect in their own islands. I'm going to just start out with the word respect. Yeah, I've got our Carl, finally, and we're going to break for head on down the home stretch here. I'm going to come back and talk a little bit about dignity and respect, and then I'm going to ride to the finish line with our Carl.
Are you or a loved one in need of wheelchair transportation? Do you have a medical appointment or family event you don't want to miss? At Access Medical Transport, they offer wheelchair accessible service 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Available at your convenience, let them help you get to your destination. To learn more about their wheelchair transportation service, contact them today, 646-6970. At Access Medical Transport, they treat their patients like family. Thank you, and be safe, Guam.
Everyone has a busy schedule these days, and sometimes we forget to schedule our routine dental checkup and cleaning. Don't neglect your dental health. Schedule one today with Dr. Robert Yang and his Smile Team, conveniently located at the East West Business Center on Marine Drive, Upper Tumon. Call us today at 647-8702 or 3. Again, that's 647-8702 or 647-8703. We make smiles happen.
Talk Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Bank Pacific, banking on the Pacific for 66 years.
So here we are, Churchill Downs, Louisville, Kentucky, the home stretch. I got to spend just a minute here talking about dignity and respect, and then I'm going to go to R. Carl. But the last sentence I read says, a Chamorro self-determination is built on the premise that Chamorro people deserve to be treated with dignity and respect in their own islands. I've got to parse that now. I don't know that you can treat a person with dignity. I always thought dignity was a noun. So I think a person could present himself with a certain dignity that would cause people to respect him. But I don't think you can treat someone with dignity. I guess if I were to treat real Joe Cruz with dignity, I would have to be dignified. That's asking a hell of a lot. But it would be something like this. Real Joe Cruz, I'm so glad that you are the producer of Tall Tales today. You are an integral part of the program. And you have helped me present myself in a dignified manner day in and day out. Thank you very much, Real Joe Cruz.
You're welcome, sir.
That would be dignity on my part. But I can't treat you with dignity. You could exhibit dignity, right? Okay, so that's the first problem I have here. And as you mentioned before, statutes as well as arguments are made of words. Then the second thing, Chamorro people deserve to be treated with respect. Okay, now what does that exactly mean? If I met John McCain back when I was in Cleveland, working on John McCain's campaign, and John and Cindy, right, his wife Cindy McCain. So, when I had the opportunity to shake and howdy with him, I didn't say, "Hey, John, how's it going? Cindy, right on, babe."
You didn't, sir?
I did not.
Are you sure?
No.
Okay, I'm just checking.
I thought I should be dignified. He was a United States senator, candidate for president, a lot of other things. So when the opportunity presented itself, I approached him, and as we extended our hands, you could actually shake hands in those days. I said, "I'm so glad to meet you, Senator McCain." Right? I respected him and his title, right? So now it says, Chamorro people deserve to be treated with dignity and respect. So if, as an example, Real Joe Cruz, I've met your cousin. Would I behave the same way when you introduced me to your cousin that I did when I met Senator John McCain?
Probably not, sir.
Well, he's Chamorro. Shouldn't I treat him with respect? I mean, that's what they're saying here.
I think respect is earned, sir.
Yeah, I think it is. And you know, when you're talking in ordinary conversation, you know, when you were growing up, Real Joe Cruz, and your mom said, you know, when you meet people at church, Real Joe Cruz, you be respectful. Respectful basically means be polite. Yeah. Right?
Be on your best behavior.
Be on your best behavior. Don't insult people. Be polite. All right. So these guys are saying Chamorro people deserve to be treated with dignity and respect. And then, but there's a qualifier here, in their own islands. Okay. Now, I know what the message here is. Well, you know, we're the indigenous people here. These are our islands. Hagunay, Tauto Sanhizong, no, Tauto Lagu, Titsamoro, how? And that's all true. But I'm in a place that I have a legal right to be. I'm in a place that I have a legal right to be engaging in nothing but legal activities. Some would even say salutary activities. So does that mean that I can't belong here? That my right to be here is subordinate to somebody else's? Anyhow, that's the point I wanted to make. I got another call coming in here. It's let me go to R. Carl here. I got a lot more to say on this, R. Carl, but I got another program tomorrow, so what can you tell me?
Yeah, you know how to push my buttons. Yeah, I think the movement should be renamed Chamorro Self-Redetermination, because my mom's generation and her siblings and that whole generation determined where they wanted to go through their representatives. And what this movement is about is overturning the choices of that generation, my mom's generation. And that's the reason why they want a do-over. They don't agree with what that generation did, the generation that actually lived through those brutal war years. I like to insert that word brutal.
I don't know. You have to have Laura Souter's permission to use the word brutal.
Oh, she might have a copyright on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's, you know, I think that shows some lack of respect for my mom and her generation that actually went through those war years and made the choices they did. And they could have at that time, as the Philippines did, as Cuba did, you know, at some point they decided, well, we want to end our relationship. But they, you know, we're a little over 200 square mile island. We had just been through a brutal occupation. There's that word again. And we had a choice, you know, go off on our own with, and they would have let us go, I'm sure, if there was enough, you know, demonstrations or whatever toward that direction. But they made a logical choice. You know, they decided to draw closer to the most powerful, most prosperous nation on the face of the earth.
Hey Carl?
Yes.
Can I interrupt you for a second? I got a caller on the line named Tony. I don't think he's ever called before. And I think if you don't mind, I'm going to put Tony on the line, okay?
Absolutely. It's almost near the top of the hour anyway. Yeah, I'll listen.
Thank you, Carl. Yeah, it's your turn, Tony.
I'm just very frustrated, and I don't know, and I'm sure you've talked about this. I do not know if this is legal. What is being done to us? We came in from Florida Monday night, and I know that we were to be confined, but they took us straight from the airport. They put us in this room. They made us wait for hours. They took our bags, and they took us to this rinky-dinky hotel room, and they just put us in there. And we had some instructions about laundry and stuff, but then they come around and they give us food. By 11:30, they put us in the room. There was no food, and we came straight from the airport. The least they could have done was told us that we have to get food because we're going to starve, and we've been traveling for 24 hours, and airplanes don't even give you food anymore. I'm very frustrated. The social worker told us my husband is 76, and I am 73. But we asked if we could at least go to our house and be confined in our house, but they get 2 days. They tell us, oh, we'll try to help you out. It looks like it can be done because you're in good health. My husband and I don't take any medication. We're healthy. But because we come from Florida, they treat us like we have a disease. And we are not sick. But they put us in this room, and we cannot leave. If somebody knocks on the door, we have to put on a mask and answer the door.
Hey, Tony,
you're trouble.
Tony,
Yes.
yeah. I'm at the end of my program here. I'm going to have to sign off.
Sorry.
That's okay, but you can call tomorrow anytime after 4 o'clock.
I needed to talk to you because you know the legal ramification of this thing, and I don't think this is
So
legal.
you can call
We are not being treated right.
You can call anytime after 4 o'clock tomorrow, and we'll see where it goes, okay?
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Good luck. So, an impassioned caller. And we hope Tony calls tomorrow. Obviously, she's having trouble with our red carpet quarantine service.
The Point is and 104.3 HD3.
Another big number passed. I'm Jack Callahan, Fox News. With a single-day record of 60,000 cases, the U.S. has now surpassed 3 million positive tests for the coronavirus.
A million of those